Good morning, scientists. Well, this morning we are going to be reading about a group of animals. Remember, we have invertebrates and vertebrates as our two main families that we start with. We're going to be interested in the vertebrates, animals that have spines. And in the vertebrates family, we have mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians. And it's those amphibians that we're interested in today. So we're going to be reading a book about amphibians. Oh, there's PH, and we know that PH when it's together often goes amphibians. Let's take a look and learn about amphibians and how amazing they are. Great. Table of contents. That means I'm going to get a wrinkle on my brain as I learn information about amphibians. I'm going to learn about their changes, how they have slippery skin, what they are, and here's the page number where I could find the information I'm looking for. Meet the amphibians. Scientists divide living things into groups. This is called classification. The animals in each group have certain things in common. One group is called the amphibians. Most amphibians spend part of their lives in the water and part on land. Amphibians are part of a larger group called vertebrates. All vertebrates have a backbone and a hard skeleton inside their bodies. Birds, reptiles, and mammals are also vertebrates. A frog is at home in the water as well as on land. A salamander is a type of amphibian. So frogs and salamanders are part of the amphibian family or group. Amphibians are divided into 3 groups. You can tell which group an amphibian belongs to by the shape of its body. Adult frogs and toads have 4 legs and no tail. Salamanders and newts have 4 legs and a tail. Caecilians have no legs and look a bit like worms. Most caecilians also burrow through the soil. Unlike worms, caecilians have backbones and they have teeth. So we have some male newts have a crest along their back and a colorful belly. Caecilians live in hot, wet places in the tropics, and they can move around like a snake. On the move. Different amphibians move in different ways. Frogs and toads have webbed feet, which helps them to swim fast through water. Most use their long back legs to hop over the ground. Salamanders and newts have short legs and squirm from side to side as they walk. Some amphibians spend most of their time in the water. They swim or crawl along the bottom of streams. Amphibians are cold-blooded. This means they cannot make their own body heat as birds and mammals do. Instead, they take in warmth from the sun and their surroundings. The warmer an amphibian becomes, the faster it moves. In the winter, when the weather is very cold, amphibians slow down. Many dig a burrow and hibernate during the winter. So I know whenever I see those bold words, I will find them in the glossary in the back so I can learn what they mean. We know that hibernate means to sleep through the winter because we learned that in our forest unit. Changing shape. Most amphibians begin life as tadpoles. The tadpoles look very different from an adult amphibian. A tadpole hatches from an egg, which its mother laid in water. A tadpole looks a bit like a tiny fish. As the tadpoles grow bigger, their bodies change. Some grow legs and their tails become shorter. This change is called metamorphosis. So when I change from one form to another, I am going through metamorphosis. And we can see the life cycle of a frog right here. And we can see its metamorphic change as it moves from being a tadpole to an adult frog. Masses of eggs. Some amphibians lay thousands of eggs. The eggs float in the water in a mass of jelly called spawn. The tiny tadpoles grow bigger and bigger until they are ready to hatch. Many of the eggs are eaten by fish and other animals. Yum, 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 yum. Some amphibians, such as the midwife toad, lay fewer eggs, and they look after them until they hatch. Yeah, if I leave the eggs alone, then I need to lay a lot because I know that some fish and some birds and some other animals are going to eat them. But if I have the eggs with me and I can take care of them, then I need less. I have fewer because I can protect them. A tadpole is at home in the water. It uses its long tail for swimming and it breathes through gills. However, many tadpoles do not survive because they are eaten by fish and other animals. Oh man, I am just really low on the food chain. What's a food chain? Don't worry, you're going to learn about that on Friday. When a tadpole is about 5 weeks old, not years like you, its legs begin to grow. With frogs, the back legs grow first. With salamanders, the front legs are first. So that's different between frogs and salamanders. Back legs for frogs, front legs for salamanders. Most tadpoles grow lungs so they can breathe air. However, some salamanders keep their gills all their lives. Axolotls, mud puppies, and sirens stay a bit like tadpoles all their lives. They never leave the water and mostly live at the bottom of ponds and streams. You can tell which ones are sirens because they only have 2 legs. So some keep their feathery gills so they can breathe underwater because they do not leave the water. Becoming an adult. After a tadpole has grown 1 pair of legs, the second pair grows. A froglet's tail becomes shorter as it grows. However, salamanders keep their tails. When it is 12 or more weeks old, the frog or salamander leaves the water and climbs onto a leaf or twig. It stays close to the water, ready to jump back in, so it can be safe from predators on land. Slippery skin. Amphibians have very thin skin. Their skin is so thin that water can move through it. This means that an amphibian has to keep its skin damp. Otherwise, the inside of its body would dry out. It would be all crispy, like a French fry that's cooked too long. An amphibian's skin is covered with a thick, slimy liquid called mucus. Some amphibians have a poisonous skin, which helps defend them against attackers. And look, we can see our yellow-spotted salamander. We know that one's the Maryland state symbol, don't we? Tree frogs live high above the ground in tropical rainforests. The air is so damp their skin never dries out. They lay eggs in pools of rainwater that collect in the leaves. Some tree frogs defend themselves from attack by making poison in their skin. The poison from the most poisonous frogs can even kill a human. Whoa, so be super careful. Don't want to touch any brightly colored frogs in the tropical rainforest if you don't know what it is. One incredible amphibian. Amphibians need to live in damp places, but a few amazing frogs live in hot deserts. They survive by burrowing into the ground and waiting until it rains. Australia's Great Sand Desert is usually very dry, but sometimes it rains very hard. When they hear rain, the frogs come to the surface and lay eggs. The eggs hatch and the tadpoles develop very quickly. Just over 2 weeks later, the new frogs are ready to dig back down into a burrow. Wow, so there's even desert frogs that know about rain and can metamorphically change very quickly, just in 2 weeks. That's amazing. Nature is amazing the way it's adapted to the environments. And then here's a quiz. Well, we took in a lot of information about amphibians, about how many are born in water first. And we learned about how they metamorphically change. They go through metamorphosis as they change from one form to another. We learned that some amphibians keep their tails and some do not. We learned that some amphibians keep their gills so they can breathe in water, and some have lungs so that they can breathe on land. Such cool creatures. All right, scroll on down and find out what you're going to do with this new information.